I'm here today with Sam Dogen, aka the financial samurai, who retired from his career at Goldman Sachs and Credit Suisse aged 34, but came out of retirement a year later because early retirement life was too boring. He
Right.
founded the personal finance blog Financial Samurai in 2009, and his new book is called Buy This, Not That: How to Spend Your Way to Wealth and Freedom. He's all about helping other people find financial freedom. So, firstly, welcome to the show. It's a great bio, isn't it? I retired at 34 and then came back into life because it was too dull.
Well, nice to speak to you, and thanks for having me here.
Oh, it's great to have you here. It would be really nice, actually, Sam, just to have a little bit more detail because your early life is really fascinating and really challenging. So, could you give us a kind of 30-second overview of sort of where you came from and where you landed?
Sure. I grew up to U.S. Foreign Service parents, lived abroad for 13 years, came to high school and college in America, worked in finance for 13 years from 1999 to 2012, and then decided I just had enough, couldn't take this anymore, 60 plus hours a week. I felt like there was more to life. I originally wanted to work until 40 and then get out. But I was able to negotiate a severance that paid for about 5 to 6 years of living expenses. So I said, you know what? That is kind of like leaving at 40 because, of all those living expenses. So I said, let me go take a leap of faith, take a break, focus on my writing on Financial Samurai, and see where life takes me.
And Financial Samurai obviously started in 2009, which is,
hmm
a good early time for a blog. What drove that? Because at the time you were working in a, as you say, 60-hour a week
Yeah.
job. I mean, there wasn't much time left over for that. So that must have been a real decision.
Well, the funny thing was, so I just worked 70, 80 hours a week in the sense that from 2003 to 2006, I was going to business school part time at Berkeley.
Hmm.
And so that required 20 hours a week for 3 years. And then I had to go to school, class. It was like 8 hours every Saturday. So once that was finished, I thought, well, I thought it'd be cool to do something entrepreneurial because in San Francisco, the ethos, the culture here is to start something on your own and
Everybody's
do
got
a
the hustle.
startup. Yeah. And that's just the way it is here in San Francisco. So I said, well, let me start it. But then in 2006, when I graduated from business school part time, I said, I'm too busy. I had an excuse. I'm too busy. I need to use my education to work because at the end of the day, my firm paid for my employment, right? So I wanted to honor them. But in 2009, it was the financial crisis. So
Mm.
everything was going to hell. My net worth got crushed by 35% in a matter of 6 months. And so I said, you know what? Maybe it's time to start and no longer delay. So that's when I started Financial Samurai.
And what were you hoping for when you started it?
I started it because it was a cathartic way to overcome the trauma of losing so much money and seeing so many of
Hmm.
my friends get let go. We were going through 3 to 5 rounds of layoffs for multiple years. And it was kind of a traumatic time. And writing was my catharsis. I was able to try to make sense of the chaos, to connect with other people who were also afraid and, try to figure out what should we do during times of crisis. It's similar to now, actually. But
Yeah.
obviously, 10 years later, our financial situation is different.
And it's interesting, you make that point in the book, don't you? And I'd never thought of it this way. You talk about financial independence being partly defensive. Hello, financial crisis. Hello, pandemic, and having that kind of
Right.
resilience, that buffer against the kind of, slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and all that. But you also talk about how it allows you to play offensively, to start the hustle, to take the risks, to do the interesting things. I thought that was
Yes.
really interesting.
Yes. I mean, I think our default setting should be to save, should be to budget, but you can only save and budget so much. It's really hard to save your way to financial independence. You really need to go for the offense where you try to make more money through your day job, through your side hustle, through your entrepreneurial activities. And so that was my thought process. And I wanted to, if I was going to leave a healthy paying job in finance, I needed to find something to do. I didn't want to retire from something. I wanted to retire to something. And for
Oh, that's
me,
nice.
it was just so fun. I would wake up at 6 a.m. to write. I would get home, have dinner, I would write after 9 p.m. to maybe to midnight. It was just so much fun. And so I knew after about a year or two, I was like, oh, this could be something I could do after a career in banking.
And actually, 6 o'clock in the morning, that was a lion for you, wasn't it? Because in the Goldman Sachs days, it was 4:30. I remember reading your book thinking, you are not selling this lifestyle, Sam.
Well, it's one of those things where the harder and more miserable your career, the more propelled you will be to try to save and figure out a way out. So that's kind of the irony because at the very beginning in 1999, I had to get into the office at 5:30 a.m.
Mm.
and we'd have to stay past 7 p.m. because I had to connect with my colleagues in Asia. It was just a global, it was just around the clock. But I know if I had a job that was say 9 a.m. and then I left at 5 with an hour lunch break and coffee break in the afternoon, I probably wouldn't have worked as hard or saved as much or thought about ways to escape.
Yeah. Yeah, it drives it. And the point about financial freedom as well, I mean, obviously, you talk about the different sort of flavors of financial independence, which I hadn't known about before: fat fire, lean fire,
Mm.
barista fire. I mean,
Hmm.
there's all sorts of different. But I love that point you make about it's kind of what you need it to be. So financial freedom might look very, very different to you if you want to go bumming around the world in a camper van than it might look
Yeah,
if you want to swan around in a yacht.
yeah, of
So,
course.
yeah,
Yeah,
really interesting.
it's really everything is personal with personal finance. And so I thought, 60, 70, 80,000, live a nice lifestyle in San Francisco. You're not going to starve. You're not going to go crazy, but it's really comfortable, right? But over time, as our lives evolved, my wife joined me in fake early retirement 3 years later at the age of 35. And we said, well, let's try to double our passive income. And then once we had children in 2017 and 2019, it's like, well, they cost a lot of money, at least here in the United States with healthcare. We've got to pay 2,200 a month in
Mm.
unsubsidized healthcare costs. And then there's preschool tuition that's 2,000 to 2,000 to $3,000 actually.
Wow.
And so it just adds up. And so, but the good thing about that is there's something to work towards. And I really love working towards a financial goal because it just provides that much more meaning and provides that much more motivation.
So I know that there are going to be people listening to this and are going, well, it's all right for you, Sam. You were working at Goldman Sachs. You were on a
Hmm.
fantastic salary. You have this banking finance knowledge, financial freedom, being able to just pay those kind of fees without,
Mm.
a job. That's only for the people who have that kind of background. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say if you want to achieve financial independence, it's more of a mindset than
Mm.
oh look at that person because we all know people who've made a lot of money who end up broke, bankrupt, who have nothing. And one of the reasons why is because there's a lack of financial education. Two is because we have desires. We want to buy things, even if you can afford a $50,000 car or 50,000 pound car. You look at the 100,000 pound car, and it just ends up going on and on and on. So one, it's a mindset shift. So if you start saying, "Well, of course they could do it because they made that or that's the wrong mindset to have. You have to adopt the mindset where there are literally trillions and trillions of pounds or dollars out there for the taking. People are getting $100 million severance packages after torpedoing their companies into the ground. People are getting paid tens of millions of dollars to play a professional sport when they're actually not playing because of some reason. The point I'm trying to make is that there's so much out there. You have to believe you deserve to be rich. And someone like me, I know I came from a middle class background. I went to public school for high school, for college. Um, but I got on the bus. I got on the
Yeah.
bus when nobody else was willing to get on that bus that one morning. And it gave me a chance. It gave me a chance at least to try to get that job, to try to hustle and try to work. And so one of my key sayings is never fail due to a lack of effort because effort requires no skill.
Mm. And just to put that into context, in case people are wondering what you're talking about with the bus, this is how you got your first job, isn't it? It was a snowy day. You turned up to go to the Goldman Sachs interview. 20 other people were supposed to be there and just didn't, and you were the only one that went. And that lovely phrase as well. I discovered that 90% is showing up.
I mean, it was a rainy day, Saturday morning, 6 a.m., and 20 people signed up to get on the bus. This is at William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, 2 hours south of the career fair at Washington, D.C. And it
Mm.
was a career fair with many financial companies. And so I got there. I was the only one. So after about 50 minutes of waiting, the driver said, you know what, screw this. Let's take you in a different vehicle. So he drove me in the bus, just me, to some outpost in Williamsburg, Virginia. He swapped out the bus for a Lincoln Black Town car, and then he drove me for 2 hours like a chauffeur limo to Washington D.C. And I said, okay, well, I guess you know what, more than half the battle is showing up, and I
Yeah.
really believe that is true. It's showing up and then showing consistency in doing what you want to get to what you want.
And let's apply that to writing as well, because it's a great segue, isn't it? When you started Financial Samurai, in fact, I need you to tell me where the name came from before you go much further. But I imagine you were writing in the early days pretty much into a vacuum and then
Mm.
gradually build a following. What keeps you going when it feels like nobody cares what you're writing?
Well, I think as a writer, you need to write for yourself first, because we have a lot of emotion, we have a lot of things we're dealing with. And so when you put something out there online, especially nowadays, someone will find you. It's the green marble theory that I have, where if you have this janky green marble and you put it on eBay, someone will buy it somewhere, because there's over 4.4 billion people on the internet right now. And it's just a law of attraction. The internet provides the greatest ability to attract other people. And so in the beginning, I wanted to write for myself to, it was kind of, like medication
Just
to go
therapy.
through the
Yeah.
therapy, right? To get through the trauma. But then over time, people would find my site through Google search. I would comment on other people's sites and then leave my URL address. And then so over time, people say, "Oh, who's this guy, Sam? He's got a website," and it would just gradually, grow and share organically from there. And because I like to write first and foremost. I feel it's just kind of like exercise. Some people exercise 3 times a week. I'll spend 6 hours a week, 2 hours each time trying to write an article. And because, and especially after a while, it becomes, just a part of who you are.
Yeah.
And
But let's
so,
dig
yeah,
into that a little bit because I love that analogy with exercise. So people exercise for a number of different reasons. They exercise because it makes them feel good. They exercise because they want to eat more of the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They exercise because
no.
I know they're in a community who do that as part of their identity. They exercise because it makes them feel good about themselves. What are those sort of different levels of reward, if you like? What do you get from writing?
Well, one, you get to suss out the ideas in your head.
Mm,
And that's really rewarding, because when you approach a problem and you're forced to write about it, you really have to think about the problem at hand. And oftentimes, by the end of your writing, you come to a optimal solution. That's one huge reward for me. It's kind of like going on a discovery. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe people who are musicians will try to create some kind of symphony or opera, and it just, those notes just come in their imagination, their heads.
you got to
So it's
capture
just,
them.
yeah. So it's wonderful to capture your ideas and solve problems. And then two, it's wonderful to connect with other people with
Mm,
similar ideas and similar problems, because I think we all have a lot of blind spots where we think one way, but then we don't realize that other it could be the other way. And when someone introduces a new way of thinking, to me that's really, really exciting. And those different perspectives is what I've helped incorporate in my book, because we all have blind spots and there's different ways of doing things. And so many people say, well, if I knew then what I know now, things would be different, things would be better, I would have made better choices. And so that's part of the goal for my book.
And another reason, which are too modest to say, I think, is that when you write something like Financial Samurai and you write it every period of time and you get that kind of following, people like Portfolio Penguin come banging on your door and saying, "Could you write a book for us, please?"
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you stay consistent, you grow your brand, you grow your message, I think sooner or later something good will happen and you won't be able to anticipate what it is. Because I got rejected from everybody. I tried to get a literary agent in San Francisco. I probably sent out 30, 40, maybe 50. I don't know. I don't remember. Just to see if I can get an agent to
Mm,
pitch my story. Because, Financial Samurai was around for a couple of years, it wasn't as big. Then I said, you know what, screw it. Nobody wants me. It's okay. I'm going to continue, and I'm going to produce and self-publish my own book on how to negotiate a severance. And so that's what I did in 2012. Published the book, and it's generating a really healthy passive income 10 years later.
Because it speaks to a really specific need that people are actively looking for.
Yeah, and it's something that I did. I was able to negotiate a severance, and I had no idea that that was possible. But through case studies and through my own experience, and just through negotiation and understanding the other side of the story, aha, this is what's possible. And if you're going to quit your job anyway, to take a sabbatical, to go back to school, to retire early,
Hmm.
you might as well try to negotiate a severance instead of leave your employer in the lurch by just quitting and saying, see you later, right? And so it's something that was really true to my experience. And at the end of the day, I write a lot. I write actually everything based on firsthand experience, and I think that shows in the community and in my articles.
I love that attitude, actually. You make it sound so blindingly obvious, but I think for most of us, we wouldn't like to ask, or, we'd feel that it wasn't appropriate, but we've nothing to lose, have you? Might as well.
Might as well. And the thing is, it's actually more thoughtful to try to negotiate a severance
Mm.
than to give a 1 or 2 week see you later notice. Because think about it, in a tight labor market, if you leave, you're going to leave your colleagues and your boss with a hole. And it might take 3 months to find someone. And then it might take another 3 months to train that person to be up to snuff. And so if you can hang on, find your replacement, train them, and provide seamless transition, your boss
That's
and
worth a
colleagues will
lot.
love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And the podcast as well. When did the podcast start happening? Because I love the way you kind of layer the blog and the podcast.
I just started recording my thoughts around 2017. And I just felt that it was just an easy way to provide more nuanced content.
Mhm.
I talk about the articles that I've written, and then after I write them, a lot of people would comment and share their stories. And I just thought it would be a great way to share the community's thoughts and perspectives as well, and to try to provide a little bit more opinion for those, frankly, who just like to listen.
And do you find that the audio is a really different market, or is it an extension of what you're offering to the people who are reading the blog?
It's I think an extension, because it's harder to connect with the audio audience because I don't have any audio responses or comments, right? They'd have to go to the blog or to an article to comment on their thoughts. But the audio is fun because I get to synthesize their thoughts and then share it in audio. And now that I'm a father, I do a lot of commuting back and forth to send my kids and pick my kids up from school. And so I like to listen to like 10, 20, 30-minute podcast interviews.
It's funny, audio has become so much more part of our lives, hasn't it? I think it's partly because of smart speakers, but it's just a different affordance. I think when you're reading a blog, or particularly when you're watching a video, you're kind of committed to it. You can't really do anything else at the same time, but audio,
Yeah.
fantastic for doing other stuff at the same time.
Yeah. Great. Workout, audio. I like to paint and then listen to podcasts. I mean, finding your podcast, I Google searched nonfiction books, authors, and I was able to listen to you, and I've been listening to you for several months. So it's been great, great fun and a lot of knowledge gained.
Good. Well, I'm very glad to hear it. And here you are now. I love that. And I still haven't found out about the title. It's Financial Samurai. I mean, is it a play on Sam?
Well, yeah, it's back in 2009. I sat on my bed one evening with my wife to try to figure out what domains were available. And so we probably typed in 100 names, and some worked, some didn't. But financial was an obvious keyword. And then
Mm.
Sam and Samurai. I used to live in Japan for 2 years. I love the culture. I love the food, the respect, the honor, everything about Samurai as well. And it's a play on Sam. So I just thought it was a perfect combination.
And it was available.
And it was available.
It's a huge thing these days, isn't it? Brilliant. So, I mean, a lot of people will be listening and going, it's great that you love writing so much, me not so much. But was there anything about this journey that you found frustrating or hard or not what you expected?
Well, the hardest part about the journey is maybe criticism.
Mm.
You could have 100 positive comments and one nasty comment, and it'll just knock you down for a little bit and make you feel, oh, like not, like, why am I doing this? You put everything out there, you bare your heart and soul. You don't charge anything either. So why are you giving me such a hard time? And so that is probably one of the hardest things I've had to go through, and especially the larger you get, because if you have 100 readers and 1% of your readership doesn't like you, then maybe that's like one comment every 100. But if you have 1 million readers a month, then 1% is actually a lot of
Significant number of
negativity,
people.
right?
And
And
there's
so
a
that's
lot
where
of
you got to
haters
be
out there.
careful. Be careful of be careful what you wish for as you grow. But I've tried to take it in stride. I've created a commentary series where there'll be like some nasty comment. I'm like, okay, let's see their point of view and see. And I've also learned a lot
Oh, I
from
like
them.
that. That's like
Yeah,
jujitsu, isn't it? I'm just going to take
yeah,
that and I'm going to turn it around and
yeah,
turn it into some more content and some more value
yeah.
for my
Just more
people.
common, and it's to me, it's really entertaining. And the other thing to realize is that comments are and emails are a reflection of who you are. How you feel. Joyful people spread joy to other people. People who are hurt, try to maybe spread hurt to other people. So it's a helpful reminder to work on empathy and understanding, even though it stings and hurts, and you didn't attack anybody. You just think, okay, well, there's something there. Let's see if we can help, or if there's a blind spot that I'm missing.
That's a very highly evolved response. I'm very impressed. What's it going to be like when you get the first negative review for the book, which is coming out? We're speaking in July 2022, and it's coming out this month, isn't it?
Yes, July 19th, 2022. So, what I've done, maybe a little bit neurotically or maybe wisely, is I researched the review distributions on Amazon for the 20 books that I read before and while writing my book. And what I saw was that the distribution was for the successful books out there, the bestseller books, or just doesn't have to be bestseller, but known books. They had about 70 plus percent 5-star reviews, maybe 20%, 10% 4-star reviews, and the rest, 3, 2, 1-star reviews. So like maybe 5, 10% 1-star reviews.
Mm.
So my hope is, I would be delusional to think they would all be 5 and 4-star reviews. I'm expecting 10% to just not get it, or to be offended by the figures that I throw out, or my beliefs. And so just to embrace it and say, okay, about 10 to 30% will not be the reviews that I enjoy,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it is.
That's really smart. You sort of inoculated yourself against the negative reviews. You're expecting a proportion of them to be negative. It sounds really obvious when you say it, but actually, I bet most people don't do that and are devastated by their first negative review. So,
I'm waiting for the negative reviews, but I'm also expecting positive reviews, because I think it's so funny. Like, we all believe that we put out good work, because if we didn't believe that, we wouldn't put it out yet, right? We would continue to edit and work on it. But the unfortunate thing is, not all of our work will be good. Just like
mm.
not all movies. Have you ever watched a movie and you're like, what were the directors thinking? That
Why
was
did they put that
terrible.
out? Yeah.
That was terrible. But the difference with creating movies and TV shows and writers is that their sunk costs are much greater. Once they do a
Yeah.
shot, and you can only reshoot that so many times before your budget blows up. Whereas as a writer, you just spend another month, redo it, send it to your editors, figure out, is this more inclusive, less offensive? Does this make more sense? And so you just keep on polishing that ball until it's really perfect. And so I think it's pretty good. But I think you were going to ask me about like the word count and stuff now or later. But yeah,
We should do that. Yeah, and we should do it now actually because we are running out of time. But yeah, remind
okay.
me again, Sam, what your contracted length was for the book,
So the contracted length for the book was, I think it was 70 to 80,000 words.
which is actually already fairly substantial, to be fair.
Yeah.
Um, what was the manuscript that you submitted again?
So I submitted about 118,000 words.
Which I mean,
So
as an editor, I'm laughing because you just says really, and what I find astonishing is they just said okay.
well, so they didn't just say okay. We did cut some stuff, right? We cut some stuff. But why did I violate that? So one, I was like free writing, so I just kept on writing, and then I didn't know the count. And after you do all the chapters, then you add them up, and then boom, you get like 118,000.
And
And
you
so
were worried at the beginning, am I going to have enough material?
maybe. No, maybe. But anyway, I got to 118,000 and they said, "Oh, it's too long." So I said, "Okay." So I cut it down to 110,000. And I tried to cut more, and I could have cut more now in retrospect. But my argument was, look, I'm trying to help people achieve financial freedom sooner rather than later with the book Buy This, Not That. I'm tackling many of life's different dilemmas, whether it's going to private school or public school, having children earlier in your career or later, relocating to an expensive city like London for your career, or going to a really low cost city to save money. How much do you spend on a wedding? All these dilemmas that we all think about. And so I said, you know what? If the cost of the book is going to be 27 US dollars, I'm going to provide more value with more content than less, right? And at the end of the day, this is my book. So do you want to work with me or not? And they said, you know what? We want you to be happy with what you've written, Sam. I hear you. And so we came up with a compromise. So one, I did cut it to 110,000 words, which is 30,000 words too long. Well, not too long, but based on the contract. Two, I argued that's more value since the price is the same. And then what they said was, okay, look, let's change the size of the book. Instead
Yeah.
of the standard 6 inch by 9 inch, because that would be a 380-page book, let's make it bigger. How about more unique? So we decided to go with 7.45 inches by 9.25 inches, which is bigger. And the upside to that was the content is under 300 pages now. So psychologically, you're reading the book and you're like, oh,
This doesn't feel
200,
too heavyweight.
yeah,
Yeah, I can do
yeah,
this. Yeah.
287. I can consume that. And then it's bigger. So if you put it on your bookshelf, the font and the cover, it'll be like, wow, but pretty good. So
That's
that
so
was our
fun.
compromise.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd love to talk to your editor about about their perspective as well. But I'm just so conscious of the time, which is annoying because I could speak to you all day about this. But I always ask my guests, Sam, as you know, because you're a listener, what's your one tip? For somebody listening and maybe they don't find it quite so easy, the writing. What would be your sort of one tip for them to get started?
Well, I believe if you can speak forever, you can write forever. And you don't have to write perfectly. You just have to get it out there. Maybe it's like just blah, just getting it out there. And then from there, if you practice every single day to get something out there, set a limit, 30 minutes, 1 hour, get your flowing thoughts out there. I promise you, your writing will get better. I promise you that. So,
You,
and it is a muscle that you will train. And over time, I think you'll become so dependent on it that you can't help but not write every single day.
I love it. You do it by doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wonderful. And I always ask as well for a business book recommendation. Well, it doesn't have to be a business book, but don't buy this, not that, but another book. What would you recommend?
I have a couple books. One is Healing Back Pain by Dr. Sarno. And it's a wonderful book for anybody who feels any type of chronic pain in their lives, because there's been an explosion of chronic pain, not just back pain, but tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, sciatica, numbness, TMJ, all that stuff. And the reason is because we are just always going, stressed,
Huh,
hustling, and we have all this anxiety. And so it's a wonderful book to help you conquer that pain and make you feel better every day.
I did
Uh,
not see that coming. Great, thank you.
yeah, check it out. It's amazing. Life saving book. And then the second book is I like it's by Brad Stulberg. It's called The Practice of Groundedness.
Hmm.
And he's a Portfolio Penguin author. And there's another book called From Strength to Strength by Arthur C. Brooks, also a Portfolio Penguin author. And I get these books now that I'm an author. They just send it to me. But these books help you, for those who are trying to achieve something, and for those who are trying to go from producing to the next stage of their life because they've lost some of their desire or their skill to be a great producer. From Strength to Strength helps you in the second stage of your life. Let's say you're over 45, and how do you find meaning in your life? And the practice of groundedness helps you feel less anxious and more purposeful in your doing.
I like the word groundedness. It sounds like it has something in common with mindfulness, but
Hmm.
groundedness, I think we can. It gives it. It's a. You can almost physically sort of relax into that word, can't you? It's powerful.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
And Sam, if people want to find out more about you, more about the book, more about the blog, more about the podcast, where should they go?
Yeah. So you can purchase Buy This, Not That: How to Spend Your Way to Wealth and Freedom at financialsamurai.com/BTNT. You can subscribe to my free newsletter. It's financialsamurai.com/newsletter. And if you want to chat or just trade ideas, you can go to any article on Financial Samurai or any financial topic. You type it in Google and then type Financial Samurai. You'll probably see an article that I've written, because I've written over 2,500 over the past 13 years. And just leave a comment. Leave a
I mean,
comment and I'll find it.
that's a great sort of discovery tool in itself, isn't it? Just if somebody's, you're right. If somebody's typing in anything about, they're going to find one of your articles. I love that. Wonderful. It's been an absolute joy talking to you, Sam. Thank you so much for your insights today.
Great. Great chatting.